Okay, today we'll cover Chapter 4, Section 1, using proportional reasoning. At the end of today's lesson, you will be able to use proportions to solve problems. Vocabulary for this section includes ratio, which is a comparison of two quantities that uses division, and proportion, which states that two ratios set equal to each other. Cross products property. For all real numbers A, B, C, and D, where B and D do not equal 0, if A divided by B equals C divided by D, then it states that A times D equals B times C. So let's go ahead and try a couple problems here to determine if the following proportions are equal using cross products. Okay, on the first one, we've got 6 divided by 27, okay, equals 2 divided by 9. And what we'll do when we use cross products, 6 times 9 and 27 times 2. 6 times 9 is 54. And we set that equal to 2 times 27, which is also 54. So when multiplying each of these utilizing cross products property, and they're equal to each other, then they are proportions. So the first one is yes, it is a proportion. So let's go ahead and look at this second one. 4 divided by 3 equals 6 divided by 5. Okay. And when we cross multiply, 4 times 5 is 20. Set that equal. And 6 times 3 is 18. Six times 3 is 18. And therefore this would not be a proportion because they do not equal each other. Okay, so go ahead and take a few moments to do the next two problems to determine if each of those is a proportion. I'll give you just pause the presentation and take a few moments, and then when you're ready, you can press play and check your work. Okay, so let's take a look. We have 2 divided by 3 equals 3 divided by 4. Okay, so again, cross multiply. 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 3 is 9. So those are not equal, so therefore this set of ratios is not a proportion. And taking a look at the final one, 3 divided by 5 equals 15 divided by 25. Again, using cross multiplication, 3 times 25 is 75, and 5 times 15 is also 75. So therefore, this set of ratios is indeed a proportion. On this next slide here, what if we're looking to solve one of the values of a proportion? Okay, we would still utilize cross multiplication to solve, but this time we are not simply determining if it's a proportion, but we are solving for the given variable. Okay, so the first one, 12 divided by 5 equals 15 over r. When we cross multiply, 12 times r is simply 12r, and 5 times 15 is 75. So this should look familiar now, going back to last chapter when we were solving variables in order to solve equations. Okay, so in this case, like we talked about before, we're trying to get r by itself. It's tied together with 12 via multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we want to divide by 12. And 75 divided by 12 would give us 6.25. Okay, on the next one, we're going to solve for y. 6 divided by y equals 4 over 82. And when we cross multiply, 4 times y is 4y. And 6 times 82 is 492. Again, like on the previous problem, 4 and y are tied together by multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we need to divide in order to get y by itself. So 492 divided by 4 gives us a value of y equaling 123. Okay, so at this point, you can pause the video, okay, and try to complete the next two problems solving for the given variable. Okay, so go ahead and check your work on this first one here. Okay, it was 9.2. Okay, 9.2 divided by 23 equals a over 5. Once again, we'll use multiplication. Okay, and 23 times a is 23a. And we'll set that equal to 5 times 9.2, which is 46. Once again, 23 and a are tied together with multiplication. So a is being held by 23 with the operation of multiplication. To undo that, divide out 23. That cancels. 46 divided by 23 is going to give us a equals 2. Okay, in our last problem, d over 0.8 equals 6 divided by 0.16. Once again, we'll cross multiply. 0.16 times d is 0.16d equals 0.8 times 6, okay, which is 4.8. D is being held through multiplication to 0.16. So to undo that, we need to divide by 0.16 to both sides. And D equals 30. Okay, so take a few moments and check your work on those last two problems and see if you need to make any corrections. If not, you can go ahead and move on. Okay, so go ahead and try this problem here. 13 divided by 2. Thirteen divided by 2 equals 65 over n. Using cross multiplication, 13 times n is 13n, and that will equal 65 times 2, which is 130. And to get n by itself, to solve for n, we will undo multiplication using division. And 130 divided by 13 gives us a value of 10 for n. All right, so go ahead and check your work. Take a few moments to make sure that everything looks okay with that one. And we'll move on when you're ready to look at the word problem here. Okay, so this problem states that Jenny biked 14 miles in 3 hours. If she continues to bike at the same pace, how long will it take her to bike 35 miles? Okay, so it's important here when we're writing out our ratios, which are just fractions. Okay, we're going to go 14 miles in 3 hours. Okay, that's our first ratio. Okay, so in 3 hours, Jenny bikes 14 hours. Now notice that we put miles on top here. Okay, and again, if you switch the two and put hours on top and miles on bottom, that's not a big deal. But an important part to this is when we write our second ratio, if we put the number of miles on top in the first ratio, we need to do the same in the second one. So our second ratio would be 35 miles over our unknown. Okay, so we're not sure how many hours it takes for 35 miles, and that's what the problem is asking us to find. Okay, so we will just use x as our variable in this problem, okay, to determine how many hours it takes to ride 35 miles. Okay, so now that we have our proportion set, 14 times x is 14x equals 35 times 3, okay, which is 105. Okay, is 105. Okay, 14 is being held to x, so divided by 14 on both sides. So 105 divided by 14, okay, gives us 7.5 hours to bike 35 miles. Okay, so again, it's important that when we write our ratios, we have both miles on top, and we have both hours on the bottom. Okay, in our homework today, all right, make sure you grab a textbook from the gray bookshelf, and we'll do page 168 to 169, numbers 13 to 47, only the odd numbers. Okay, you can use a calculator, but be sure that we do show our work first. All right, and you'll turn that in when I return on Monday. So if you have any questions, you can email me. And thanks for watching the video, and good luck on homework. Like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know.